Welcome back to our In the Inbox series answering question 128 this week, which was asked by Emily. I love this question. This is something that I'm going to guess many of you are thinking as well if you are considering spending more time here on Ambergris Caye. But Emily asked, what is the cost of living on Ambergris Caye? As you can imagine, this answer is going to vary widely just depending on the must-haves for you and things that you can forego. But with that, let's just jump into the general cost of items here on Ambergris Caye. When working on your budget, housing is probably going to be one of the biggest ticket items. If you're renting and you're looking for a one-bedroom condo, you can typically expect rents to be about $900 to $1,400 US per month plus utilities. If you're looking for a two-bedroom, you're going to be close to that $1,400 to $2,000 US range. If you're looking for something that's a little bit more luxurious or perhaps beachfront, then you're easily going to be looking at about 2,500 US per month. Of course, there are anomalies in all of these situations here, but if you're coming in with that average, those averages, then you're going to be setting yourself up for success. And then, of course, when you're renting, you will have utilities. So utilities can include internet, cable, water, gas, or propane, but we'll go through the utilities in the next slide over here. Now, I do want to make a note, you'll see the little asterisk next to renting. I do want to make a note that these prices are for North American quality and standard housing. In Belize, you will tend to find a variety of housing. Many of the local homes don't necessarily have air conditioning or hot water. So these considerations are factored in when we're looking at prices for properties that do have both air conditioning and hot water. And maybe it's not air conditioning in every single room since we tend to use split ACs here, but that's going to be something when you're looking at your rental that you want to make sure it has if that's important to you. And then, of course, you can own your property. So if you own your property, you're typically looking for one bedrooms that are going to be about 150 to 300, and then two bedroom condos are typically about 350 plus. But when you own, you have a different set of expenses, right? Of course, you're going to have your utilities, but you're also going to have your property taxes. In Belize, they're fairly low. I'll put a link in the description below, which covers more information about property taxes. But if you're in a condo community, you'll also have your HOA fees and any other expenses. So just some things to bear in mind. Also, please note that over the next slides here, all of the numbers are going to be in US dollars unless otherwise noted. But you do tend to find a lot of properties here. Real estate also is going to be in US dollars. All right, so that is consideration number one, renting. Number two is utilities. So one of the most expensive considerations that people sometimes forget is going to be the electricity. Electricity here tends to be the biggest ticket item. You're looking at about $100 to $700 US a month, depending though entirely on your usage. Like I was saying to you, split ACs tend to be the most common here. We tend to cool down the room that we're in, and we don't need to have all of the other rooms get cooled in the meantime. But this is going to depend entirely on you. If you're not used to the heat here, you're probably going to be cranking up the air conditioning, having it on all the time. But if you're not in the house, turn off your ACs to help keep your bill down. Water. So if you're on public water, you're probably going to be looking at anywhere from about $25 to $100 a month. Again, though, it depends entirely on your consumption, but these are averages. If you are in a property that has a rainwater catchment cistern and you're depending on rainwater, well, it's going to be free while you have water in your cistern. But if you run out of water, then you'll have to pay for the water to be delivered. And that typically the average is $350 US for 1,100 gallons. That can vary though, depending where on the island you live. And please note, all of these numbers that we're sharing today are going to be based on Ambergris Caye living on the mainland. And other parts of the country, you're going to find that numbers vary. Ambergris Caye does tend to be the most expensive though. Propane, it's not uncommon to have gas stoves here. So you do tend to go through gas or propane, and that's about $40 US for a 40 gallon. Internet ranges from $45 to $90, just depending on the speed that you're looking for. And then if you're getting a chip here in Belize, a SIM card, then you're looking at about $45 a month as well to have a monthly plan here on the island. So, and that's just Belize generally. But for an overview of your expenses when it comes to utilities, again, if you're able to cut back on your electricity consumption, you'll see that your bill will go down. All right, food and groceries. Obviously, this depends. You are, though, going to find that imported goods like cheese, wine, specialty foods, the name brand American foods are going to be higher than they are in the United States. However, the local staples like rice, beans, chicken, fruits, poultry is going to be lower than the United States. I think anything that is produced here is going to be at a lower price. Anything that has to go through the border is going through customs, they're going through duties, and they're going through extra transportation charges. So of course they're going to be higher than they are in the United States. I did a video also on grocery shopping on Ambergris Caye. I'll put that link in the description below if you want to see what examples of prices are. Your monthly grocery bill, I'd say anticipate anywhere from $300 to $600. Again, these are just estimates based entirely on you and what it is that you're purchasing, but that tends to be a fairly decent example for a couple. We'll say $300 to $600 US. So if you're looking to save money, you can eat locally. I just had lunch with my husband over here, and I went to Frenchie's and got a nice turkey and brie, apple, sub, and a Caesar salad, and it was $45 Belize. And they didn't have the specific meat that he wanted, so he didn't want a sandwich. He went to a local deli, and he got this huge plate of food for 15 Belize, so $7.50 US. So if you're eating locally, then you can certainly save on any expenses. All right, and this is actually true. I mean, this is just generally a good rule of thumb for anything imported versus local. Anything local is going to tend to be lower price tag than anything imported. I tend to use the example of Doritos quite a bit when it comes to groceries. You can get the local Doritos here, not Dorito brand, right? But the local brand for about $2.50, where that same bag is going to cost you about $7 US if it's the Dorito brand. So shop locally and you can save some good money there. The next one is transportation, and this one surprises people quite a bit. But if you're looking to purchase a golf cart here on the island, you're going to be looking anywhere from 8,000 to about 20,000 US. Rentals on a per month basis, depending on the season that you're here. If you're here during high season, you're going to be on the higher end of this, $500 to $900 a month. $500 to $900 a month. And you may be thinking about that number and thinking, I can get a really nice Lexus or Mercedes or something along those lines at home. I try not to do that comparison, because here, what a golf cart rental means is that it gets you from point A to point B a little bit quicker than it would if you were walking or bike riding. Also, if you're living up north or down south and you're not really within an area that is within walking distance, then a golf cart is probably going to be an essential part of your budget. Now, a lot of people are looking for the side-by-sides, Polarises, the Rangers, the Kawasaki's. Those to buy one here are fairly expensive, 30 to 50,000 and up. We saw one for sale that was just listed at $56,000 US for a Ranger. Great condition, 4 doors, air conditioning inside, the windows, the whole thing. However, you are going to find that these are more expensive. These are also going to be more expensive to maintain. So because we don't have the dealerships here, it's very difficult to get the parts. It's going to cost more to get the parts. So you have to import everything. So just bear that in mind if you are looking to do a Polaris or Ranger or one of the bigger ATVs. Also, if you are owning your golf cart, you want to factor in insurance and your annual registration with the town council, which is going to be about $250 US a year. Gas, this is the really big one. Gas for your golf cart. So when I am completely empty in my golf cart, it costs about $65 Belize to fill it up. About $65 Belize. So we're looking at about $35, a little bit less than that, about $33 US to fill up my golf cart. Mine will last for about a week, but I'm up and down the island all the time. Go up north towards the Secret Beach, turn off, go to Secret Beach, go up north, go down south. So you probably, if you're not driving around as much as I am, will not go through a tank every week, but otherwise expect about 6 to 7 US a gallon. And then there's also not usually any gas gauge on your golf cart, so you have to pick up the golf cart seat, shake it a little bit and see how much gas is there, but that is important for you to do. And then, of course, there's biking, walking, scooters. So just depending where on the island you are, you're going to find that there may be a mode that's a lot more efficient than others. We do have cabs. However, cabs can get surprisingly costly. To go from town to about Secret Beach, they're going to charge you about 100 US dollars. Maybe if they get to know you a little bit more, they'll charge about $75 US. However, that's just for one way. So it can get very costly to get a cab. So it's not uncommon to see people hitchhiking, and it's fairly safe to do that. I'd say more or less safe to do that, but if you don't feel comfortable with it, of course, don't do it. But I would say your best bet is going to depend on where your property is and where it is that you're staying. And then from there, assessing what sort of vehicle you would need. Number five is healthcare. So when you're spending time here in Belize, you may want to visit the doctor. And on the island here, we have great facilities. We have clinics, we have an urgent care, we have specialists that rotate weekly on the island here. So you will be able to see the dermatologist if you want to. Doctor visits are about $40 US. It depends on which doctor you're seeing and what you're seeing them for, but a general checkup is about 40 US. If you want to get your teeth cleaned and all of that, which you should be doing a couple of times a year, then you're looking at about 35 US. Insurance, couple different insurance options here. So if you're going through a local insurance company, you can get insurance at the hospitals in Belize City, and then it's going to be used specifically for that hospital. And at the hospital, they also have a handful of clinics and different doctors that you can see. But you can also get medical insurance through a local company called RF&G, and that's just generally around the country here. But estimated about 150 to 400. Again, it's going to depend on any pre-existing conditions. But if you're looking at an international company like Cigna or Bupa, it's going to be more, again, depending on your pre-existing conditions. Medicine, you can typically get your prescriptions for lower, significantly lower than it is in the States. We don't deal with health, the health insurance here like we do in the States, where you get a prescription for something, you go to the clinic or you go to the pharmacy rather, get that prescription, and it could charge you an arm and a leg if you don't have insurance. Here, it's all generally very affordable. So people don't typically have insurance for medicines. Sixth is going to be your lifestyle and extras. So this is such a wide array of expenses and numbers, right? But we were talking about local dining before, where my husband got a big plate of food for $7.50, and I got the sub with a Caesar salad came out to 41 Belize, I think it was, so 20 US. Right? So that's a good example of that right there on the screen. Depends on your beach bar or how much you want to be spending at beach bars, the nightlife. If you're looking for some of the nicer, we'll say having a housekeeper, having a nanny or a caretaker that stays at your house, then you could expect about $25 to $150 for cleaning that they do. A nanny, if you have any kids, $175 US per week. And then if you have a caretaker and they're staying at your house, about $150 a week. And again, it's going to depend entirely on the experience, where on the island you live. Further from town, they tend to charge a little bit more. Obviously, if you have more kids, the nanny's going to charge you more. If you have a bigger house, the housekeeper's going to charge you more. But these are just some pretty solid examples of what you can expect if you're looking for some domesticated help. But overview here, when you're looking at the monthly cost, for a couple, I would say if you're looking to be on a budget lifestyle here in Ambergris Caye, you really want to be around $2,500 to $3,000 a month. That's what I would recommend for you to live comfortably here. It'd still be a bit of a budget, but you can live comfortably. If you want to be a really comfortable expat, then you're looking at about $3,500 to $4,000 a month. And then if you're looking to be on a tourist lifestyle, you want to have about $5,000 a month. And tourist lifestyle, I mean, you're dining out at touristy restaurants all the time. You're really starting to indulge in the island here. But again, this is really more so applicable to Ambergris Caye because it is an island. Things need to be imported out here. It does tend to also be more expensive than other parts of the country. I know when we go to Caye and we do our grocery shopping there, we tend to see that it's about 25 to 30% less in Caye than it is on Ambergris Caye. However, we find on Ambergris Caye, we have a much larger variety. We have supermarkets that look like the United States. You go and you have the Annie's organic macaroni and cheese, for example. You have, I don't never remember if it's called Mario's or Luigi's. It's that Italian ice. Oh, Rita's. Well, now I don't remember, but it's like those little Italian ices where you see them all the time when we were growing up. And I saw them in the store. I bought them. I think it was like $6 for $15 US. It was pretty expensive. But as I was eating, I was like, this makes me think of my childhood as I'm there on the lake in the summers, and so seeing something like that was like, well, I can't find this anywhere else in the country, but I know I can find it here in San Pedro because this is where the big tourism hub is. But of course, it's going to depend on your lifestyle. Key takeaways is you can live as simply as you want, or you can live like a carefree tourist. That really depends on you and your budget. Your biggest expense is going to be housing, transportation, and of course, those imported goods. And then your lifestyle choices will make the biggest difference in cost. So bear that in mind. You will tend to find that some grocery stores are more affordable than others. Take your time though, as you're getting here to Belize and spending time in the country and on the island. Spend your time going to check out the different grocery stores, meeting the business owners, because you may tend to find that they'll start giving you discounts along the way as well. All right, everyone, if you're ready to own real estate here in Belize, reach out to our team. We have an incredible group of agents working beside me here at Luna Realty Belize, and we are here and ready to help you make these dreams a reality. Email us info@lunarealtybelize.com. We can send you this resource guide, and we have many, many others that you should be reviewing prior to owning properties here in the country, especially if you're a foreigner. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in, and looking forward to seeing you in Belize some point soon. Bye-bye.